Are you wondering if the hype around CachyOS is actually justified, or if it's just another ARC spin with a fresh coat of paint? Do you want to know if the performance claims translate to real-world frame rates and faster build times? If so, you're in the right place. In this video, we are going to dive deep into the CachyOS June 2026 release. You'll see exactly how the new Python profile guided optimizations and the GCC branch misprediction patch impact daily tasks and gaming. By the end, you'll be able to decide if switching your daily driver or gaming rig to CachyOS is worth the effort. Let's start by looking at what makes this June 2026 release stand out. CachyOS has been steadily climbing the ranks, recently hitting 14% of the Linux user base in the June 2026 Steam survey. That's a significant milestone and is not happening by accident. The development team has been laser focused on extracting every last drop of performance from modern hardware. One of the most interesting technical changes in this release is the inclusion of a specific GCC patch. Intel software engineer Lily Kui discovered that by increasing the misprediction cost of the generic x86 tuning in the GCC compiler, you can avoid pipeline stalls. This isn't just theoretical, it's a one-line change that has shown up to a 12% performance increase in specific benchmarks. It impacts both Granite Rapids and AMD Zen 5 architectures. We're going to see how that translates to real games later. But it's not just about raw compiler flags. This release brings a lot of polish to the user experience. They've introduced the Hyprland Noctalia desktop option directly in the installer, complete with a preview video so you know exactly what you're getting into. They've also added DNS over QUIC support through Blocky in the CachyOS Welcome app, giving you better privacy and security. This gives you better privacy and security right out of the box. And if you're used to relying on Pahoo for your AUR needs, take note, it's been removed from the default installation. The team is now recommending Shelly as the go-to package manager. It's a shift, but it aligns with their broader goal. It aligns with their broader goal of streamlining the system. So, we have compiler-level tweaks, a pre-configured tiling window manager, and some significant changes to the default package stack. The question is, does all of this come together? Let's get it installed and find out. For this deep dive, I installed CachyOS on two different machines. My primary gaming rig with an AMD Ryzen processor and an NVIDIA GPU, and my daily work laptop. This gives us a good look at how the OS handles both high-end gaming and standard productivity workloads. The installation process itself is handled by Calamares, which is standard for many Arch-based distros. However, CachyOS has customized it heavily. One of the first things you'll notice is the desktop environment selection screen. As I mentioned earlier, the June 2026 release adds the Hyprland Noctalia option. If you've been curious about tiling window managers but intimidated by the configuration required, this is a very compelling option. It comes pre-configured with a polished, dark-themed aesthetic that looks fantastic out of the box. We'll explore the Noctalia setup in detail shortly, but for now, let's talk about the file system. When setting up a rolling release distribution like CachyOS, having a safety net is crucial. I strongly recommend choosing Btrfs as your file system during installation. CachyOS configures Btrfs with sensible default subvolumes. This makes setting up automated snapshots incredibly straightforward. If an update breaks your system, which, let's be honest, can happen on the bleeding edge, you can simply reboot into a previous snapshot from your grub or system deboot menu. It takes the anxiety out of running sudo pacman -syu. In this release, the installer has also been refined to correctly handle keyboard layout ordering and locale configuration, fixing minor annoyances. Once the installation is complete and you boot into the system, the CachyOS Hardware Detection Tool, or CHWD, takes over. This tool is responsible for identifying your hardware and installing the appropriate drivers. In the June 2026 update, CHWD received logic updates. It now resolves driver conflicts on multi-GPU systems much more gracefully, rather than leaving you with a broken graphical session. With the system installed and the drivers sorted, it's time to look at the user experience, starting with that new Hyprland Noctalia desktop. Booting into Hyprland Noctalia for the first time is a striking experience. The CachyOS team has put significant effort into the theming and default configuration, and it shows. It's a dark, modern aesthetic that feels cohesive across the system. If you are new to tiling window managers, Hyprland is a fantastic place to start. because it leverages the modern Wayland protocol, offering smooth animations and tear-free rendering that older X11-based managers struggle to match. The Noctalia configuration provides sensible default key bindings that make navigating the desktop intuitive, even if you haven't memorized a massive cheat sheet. However, Wayland hasn't been without its growing pains, particularly when it comes to screen sharing and capturing. This is a critical area for anyone who needs to use their machine for work or content creation. The good news is that the Wayland ecosystem has matured significantly, and CachyOS includes the necessary XDG desktop portal implementations out of the box. During my testing, I was able to share my screen in WebRTC-based applications like Discord and Microsoft Teams, running in the browser and capture specific windows using OBS Studio, without jumping through the complex hoops that used to be required. Now, I need to address the elephant in the room, NVIDIA. While the AMD laptop provided a flawless Wayland experience, the NVIDIA desktop still presented a few quirks. We are currently in a transitional period with NVIDIA's drivers and Wayland support. While the proprietary 555 and 560 series drivers have made massive strides with explicit sync support, you might still encounter occasional flickering or issues with specific Electron apps. It is absolutely usable for daily driving, but it's not quite as seamless as the AMD experience just yet. This isn't a CachyOS specific issue, but it's an important reality check if you are planning to run Hyprland on an NVIDIA GPU. If you do run into issues, the updated CachyOS Welcome app now includes a dedicated troubleshooting page, which is a great addition for diagnosing common problems without immediately resorting to forum searches. Next, let's look at the under-the-hood changes that promise to make this the fastest version of CachyOS yet. CachyOS has built its reputation on performance. They do not just compile packages with standard flags, they use microarchitecture-specific optimizations to squeeze out every bit of speed. In the June 2026 release, they have taken this a step further with two significant changes: extended Python PGO and a new GCC patch. Let us start with Python. Python is notoriously difficult to optimize because it is an interpreted language. However, by using profile-guided optimization, or PGO, the compiler can analyze how the Python interpreter behaves during typical workloads and optimize the compiled binary accordingly. CachyOS is now using extended PGO for their Python builds. What does this mean for you? If you are a developer, sysadmin, or just someone who relies on Python-heavy tools, you will see a measurable decrease in execution times. In my testing, running complex Ansible playbooks and data processing scripts showed a noticeable improvement over a standard Arch Linux installation. The second major change is the inclusion of a specific GCC patch aimed at generic x86 branch misprediction tuning. Modern CPUs from both Intel and AMD have incredibly deep pipelines. They try to guess which path the code will take before it actually happens. When they guess wrong, a branch misprediction, they have to flush the pipeline and start over, which is a massive performance penalty. This patch, developed by an Intel engineer, increases the cost associated with mispredictions in the compiler's generic tuning model. This tells the compiler to generate code that tries harder to avoid these expensive pipeline stalls. Initial reports showed up to a 12% performance increase in specific SPEC CPU benchmarks just from this one-line change. While you might not see a 12% boost in every application, this kind of low-level compiler optimization raises the performance floor of the entire operating system. It makes everything feel just a little bit snappier and more responsive. But synthetic benchmarks and compile times are one thing. How do these optimizations translate to gaming? That is what we are going to look at next. When it comes to gaming on Linux, CachyOS has become a top recommendation, and the June 2026 release reinforces that position. The combination of optimized kernels, up-to-date Mesa drivers, and the performance tweaks we just discussed creates a very potent gaming environment. To test the gaming performance, I ran several demanding titles through Proton on the NVIDIA desktop rig. The results were impressive. Not only were the average frame rates high, but more importantly, the frame times were incredibly consistent. Consistent frame times mean less stuttering and a smoother overall experience, which is crucial for competitive gaming or just maintaining immersion. CachyOS includes its own flavor of Proton, which has recently been renamed to Proton-GE-native. This version is compiled with their specific optimizations and often includes patches that haven't made it upstream yet. In my testing, Proton-GE-native performed on par with and sometimes slightly better than the popular Proton-GE fork, particularly in CPU-bound scenarios where those GCC optimizations really shine. By the way, I just checked our channel analytics and it turns out about 90% of you watching right now aren't subscribed yet. If you've been getting value from these Linux deep dives, hitting that subscribe button is the best free way to support the channel and make sure you never miss the next one. It's clear that the gaming community is taking notice. In the latest Steam hardware survey, CachyOS accounts for roughly 14% of the total Linux user base. This surge in popularity means better community support and more attention from developers. For those who prefer a different flavor of tiling, the CachyOS team has also updated Mango WM, which now uses SDDM as its display manager. It's great to see them supporting multiple modern desktop environments with the same level of polish. So, the performance is there, the gaming experience is excellent, but what is it actually like to use CachyOS as your daily driver? Let's talk about the reality of living on the bleeding edge. Using CachyOS as a daily driver is a generally fantastic experience, but it requires a certain mindset. You are running an Arch-based rolling release distribution that aggressively pushes performance optimizations. This means you get the latest software, the newest kernels, and cutting-edge features before almost anyone else. The downside is that things can occasionally break. During my testing, I didn't encounter any catastrophic failures, but I did have to manage a few minor configuration issues, mostly related to Wayland on the NVIDIA machine. This is why having a fallback plan is essential. CachyOS makes it easy to install and manage multiple kernels. I always recommend keeping the LTS, long-term support kernel, installed alongside the default optimized kernel. If an update introduces a regression or instability, you can simply select the LTS kernel from the boot menu and continue working while the issue is resolved upstream. So, is the June 2026 release of CachyOS worth your time? If you are an enthusiast who wants maximum performance, if you are a gamer looking for a highly optimized Linux experience, or if you want a pre-configured, beautiful Wayland tiling setup with Hyprland Noctalia, the answer is absolutely yes. The CachyOS team has delivered a release that is fast, polished, and packed with meaningful technical improvements. However, if you prioritize absolute stability above all else, or if you prefer an operating system that you install once and never have to think about again, a more conservative distribution might be a better fit. If you found this breakdown of CachyOS performance interesting, you need to see how local AI models are performing on Linux right now. I benchmarked Olama, LM Studio, and others to see if private AI is actually fast enough for daily use, and the results might surprise you. That video is on screen right now. Also, like, subscribe, and sign up for the weekly newsletter at tomdoeslinux.com/subscribe. And if you want to support the channel directly and get some cool perks, consider clicking the join button below to become a sudo user or get root access. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.